Denis Villeneuve's Dune Part 2 has just been showcased at the CCXP event with the director and cast in attendance, and the early descriptions of footage promise an exciting second part in the auteur filmmaker's growing universe. The event, for those who went, included the first 10 minutes of the film, 2 exclusive scenes, behind the scenes footage and character posters, which were also released online. Now, although I can't share any footage because it hasn't been released online, there is a description of what was on screen, and I can detail that and give you the extended notes on what was shown alongside all the other things that were learned at the event. If you haven't read Frank Herbert's book, there will be spoilers from the opening events of Dune Part 2 in this video, so I'd recommend watching one of my other uploads if you don't want to know too much about the scenes from the upcoming film. Before I get into it though, if you want to keep up to date on any of my content surrounding Dune Part 2 and beyond, then don't forget to support this upload by giving it a like rating, subscribing to the channel, and turning on your notifications. But without further ado, let's discuss the first 10 minutes and new footage seen at CCXP for Dune Part 2. So director Denis Villeneuve is set to release Dune Part 2 next March, and while that's still a few months away, the filmmaker and members of his cast attended yesterday's Comic-Con experience with an extended look at the upcoming science fiction epic. The footage included the first 10 minutes of the movie, 2 different scenes, and behind the scenes footage and commentary from the cast and filmmaker. The screening was attended by director Denis Villeneuve and stars Timothée Chalamet, Zendaya, Austin Butler, and Florence Pugh. The Brazilian entertainment website Omelette, who hosted a Q&A with the cast after the screening, put up an article online describing the footage that was shown, what scenes we can expect in that opening 10 minutes, and 2 extra scenes, one involving the blossoming romance between Paul and Chani, and the other centering on Paul learning to ride a sandworm for the very first time. When it comes to the opening 10 minutes of the film, the website's description reads, "The film begins with a scene narrated by Florence Pugh's Princess Irulan, who recounts the destruction of House Atreides, saying that it will remain a mystery. We then see Christopher Walken's Emperor playing chess with his daughter on planet Kytane, and the princess comments on him not saying anything. She's frustrated by his lack of words and speculates that the Harkonnens are behind it. And this is where the scene then transitions to the Harkonnens themselves on their home planet of Gedi Prime. There we see Stellan Skarsgård's Baron crowning Dave Bautista's Raban as commander of his forces. The Dune Part 2 logo appears on screen, and we hear Paul talking to his unborn sister in Lady Jessica's belly. Meanwhile, Chani and Stilgar are on a sandbank lurking with more of the Fremen. On the other side, a Harkonnen ship lands and destroys its forces. The Fremen hide and the soldiers begin to look for them, but soon they hear the sound of a thumper used to call the sandworms. Although they locate and destroy the thumper, they are attacked by the Fremen and shot one by one in the head. One of the soldiers falls right near Paul and Jessica, and this is where they are then spotted. Paul grabs a knife from the corpse and fights and kills a Harkonnen, but another takes aim at him, with Jessica coming to the rescue. The description reads that she shoots him in the head with a stone, but I'm guessing that this is that shot from the second trailer where Lady Jessica hits a Harkonnen over the head. And that's where the description ends for the first 10 minutes. So when it comes to this initial footage, it seems like we are getting that Fremen versus Harkonnen raid from the book, and this is of course a moment that's briefly shown in the 2 trailers we've seen thus far, with the Harkonnen soldiers standing out in the bright orange setting with their dark black outfits. But what really interested me about this opening was the very beginning of it, in that scene between Irulan and the Emperor. It's almost a reversal on what we saw during the opening to the first movie, where that film had Chani narrating and the Harkonnens raiding the Fremen. This time, like in the book and David Lynch's this film, it's Princess Irulan narrating, and it transitions into scenes of the Harkonnen ceremony and Paul and the Fremen fighting back against them. So a somewhat reversal to what we saw in part 1, but comparable and interesting in the sense that we get more of the perspective from the opposite side. Also, having an introduction to House Corrino on planet Kytane is something that I'm sure is going to be striking setting-wise, and we definitely get a sense of that in the brief glimpses of the planet we've seen before during the trailers and behind-the-scenes images of that location. So while that was the description of the first 10 minutes of Dune Part 2, there were 2 other scenes shown, and these were also described in that same article. Starting with the first scene, the article read, "Paul and Chani talk on the sand dunes in a romantic mood. Paul tells her that his home planet Caladan is full of water, and she doesn't believe him. She even has no idea what swimming means. Paul asks her if Stilgar will teach him how to ride the worms, but she tells him that he's not a Fremen yet, and only by name." So it was pretty much the exact scene we saw at the start of the very first trailer for Dune Part 2. But when the audience were shown the second scene, apparently the CCXP crowd were treated to Paul trying to ride a sandworm for the first time. In the article it said, "Stilgar lectures Paul and tells him not to try anything fancy. Chani, for her part, is nervous, and one of her Fremen colleagues mocks Paul from afar. Paul then climbs up the ravine and leaves a thumper on the way down. After a while, we see a huge trail appearing in the sand in the background, and even Stilgar is startled by it, saying, 'Not such a big one.' When the worm gets close, the sand around it starts to sink, and Paul arms his maker hooks and jumps towards the worm. He manages to get a foothold on its scales, and little by little, he manages to balance himself and stand up once he reaches the top. The scene ends with Chani and the other Fremen celebrating from a distance. It said on the website that after this, they showed the behind-the-scenes featurette, which included clips of several other new scenes showing the audience footage of battles, absurd armies, and main characters suffering. It apparently ends with Paul in front of a blazing sun with destruction all around him. So that was pretty much all of the footage shown at the event, and according to one person there, the scene with Paul riding the worm was the standout moment. Stephen Weintraub of Collider said, "The Dune 2 footage just shown at CCXP 23 was jaw-dropping. We saw the opening 10 minutes of the movie, a quiet scene between Zendaya and Timothée Chalamet on a sand dune, and then my favourite of the footage, which was Paul trying to ride a sandworm for the first time. It was incredible stuff." When it comes to the Q&A with the cast that followed all of this footage, there wasn't too much shared that really stood out beyond what was shown, but director Denis Villeneuve did repeat what he said about the film before, saying that Dune Part 2 is the main course of the franchise, and that this film is going to be part a war movie and another part a romance. The only other thing to cover from yesterday's big Dune event was that they did release loads of character posters for the film, and while we did get the same sort of approach for part 1, I think the release of these posters could also be signalling that something else will drop sometime this week. Traditionally, when posters release online for a film, we get a trailer or some sort of video come out up to a week afterwards. The same happened for part 1 when the character posters dropped for that, and I would suspect that we'd either get a new trailer in time for Wonka this Friday, or the behind-the-scenes featurette that was shown at CCXP. Wonka is probably Warner Brothers' biggest film until June, other than say Aquaman 2, so I think they would want to put a new trailer in front of one of those films over the coming weeks. Like I said in my trailer date prediction video a few weeks back, even though they've already put out 2 trailers for Dune Part 2, I think you have to keep in mind that the writers and actors strikes have really impacted the marketing strategy, and now that the release date has been moved to March, they'd want to advertise that new date sooner rather than later. The cast are now promoting the film too, so it makes sense that the marketing would really start to build on as we approach that new release date. So with all of this in mind, I think either today or before this Friday, we might see either a new trailer or that behind the scenes featurette released online. in. If not by Friday, then I would suspect that we get it before Aquaman 2 on December the 22nd. I do think it's likely that we'll get one final trailer closer to March 2, so putting out a bit of marketing now will lead us nicely into that. We'll have to see if this turns out to be true, but after all the footage that they just showed to an audience, I do think we will be getting more this month. But they were all the details surrounding the footage screened for Dune Part 2 at CCXP. It sounds like everything that was shown really made an impression, and I gotta say, those people at the event were really lucky to see the first 10 minutes of the movie, a new featurette, and 2 extra scenes. Like I suggested, I think we are going to be getting a lot of marketing leading up to the new March release date, as for one, they've got to promote that new date more, and 2, the actors can now do press after the recent strikes. It's a great opportunity to sell off that massive cast and remind the general audience that a new Dune movie is on the horizon. It looks like that has begun with this presentation at CCXP, and after the posters dropping online yesterday, I can see Warner Brothers putting out something in the next few days. We'll have to see, but I'm interested to hear what you guys think towards the details of the footage shared, alongside what personally excites you the most about Villeneuve's upcoming film. So let me know down below in the comment section. For much more videos and news on Denis Villeneuve's Dune universe, then subscribe to the channel and turn on your notifications. Also, if you enjoyed this video, remember to leave a like rating and follow me on social media via the links in the description. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I've been Cortex, and as always, make some noise.